Welcome to another deep dive. You know we love digging deep into all sorts of fascinating stuff, and today is no exception. Today we're taking a look at aging, and we're exploring it through the lens of Buddhist philosophy. And we've got a really interesting text to work with called Eshe.
Yeah.
I know you, our listener, want the good stuff right away, and you don't want to be bogged down with a ton of information, so we'll get right to it. In a culture that's kind of obsessed with youth, we're going to flip the script and ask a really different question. What if, instead of looking at aging as a process of loss, it's actually a journey of gaining something really deep and meaningful?
Hmm. That's a powerful question, isn't it? This idea that as time passes, we inevitably decline is so ingrained.
Yeah.
You know, it's everywhere. But what if we could see that whole process in a different light? What if we could reframe aging as this enriching experience, as a path to a deeper understanding of life?
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so let's start with a really vivid image from the text. Imagine a calm lake and someone throws a stone into it. Ripples start to spread outward, and that's like life unfolding. As we get older, those ripples, they might slow down a bit. They might become less dramatic on the surface. Now, the typical way of seeing this is that things are fading. But the Buddhist perspective that we're looking at today offers a completely different take. It suggests that aging is about transformation, quiet deepening of our purpose. It's almost the opposite of how we usually think in our modern world, where we connect youth with energy and vitality and older age with wellness of everything good.
Exactly. And the text uses this great metaphor to describe this inner shift. Think about a candle burning. Now, as it gets closer to the end, does the flame just get weaker? Not always right. Often just before it goes out, it kind of flares up burning with this intense bright light. Buddhist thought sees that flame as representing our consciousness. So aging becomes this incredible opportunity for our consciousness, for our inner being, to turn inward and kind of distill all the experiences of our lives into wisdom. It's not about losing something, but concentrating it.
Here's where it gets really interesting. There's a story in the text about Lama Tenzin from Bhutan, who lived a very long and full life teaching into his 90s. And his wisdom wasn't because of some magical secret or anything. It was because of his attitude. He said, and I love this quote, "Aging is not a curse. It is a gift wrapped in patience." And it makes you stop and think, how can this ancient wisdom fit into our crazy, busy modern world? The text proposes that aging is a spiritual process, a journey of learning to look beyond the surface and appreciating the beauty that's found in the ever-changing nature of everything.
And that brings us to the heart of Buddhist philosophy, the three marks of existence. Those are impermanence, anicca, suffering, dukkha, and non-self anatta. Now, those might sound a little intimidatingly philosophical, but they offer some really profound insights into the nature of reality and how we experience it. The text really highlights impermanence, and the main idea here is that nothing stays the same forever. Not our youthful energy, not our health, nothing in the outside world. By truly accepting this constant state of flux, we begin to let go of our need to control things, to detach from the idea that anything is permanent. And this letting go is what surprisingly opens the door to a deeper and more lasting kind of peace. Because when we hold on so tightly to how things used to be, we just create suffering for ourselves when they inevitably change. Accepting change isn't just a philosophical idea, it's a key to finding peace as we age and as our bodies and lives inevitably change.
I see what you mean. That's a really different way of thinking about it. Think about those times in your life where time seemed to stretch out forever, and then other moments that just flew by in a flash. The text suggests that our level of presence in each moment has a lot to do with how we experience time. The more present we are, the richer and more memorable that moment becomes. And it encourages us to take this awareness and apply it to how we think about aging, instead of worrying about what's coming or dwelling on what's past. Try to truly be in the present moment, really savoring every experience. This leads us to the idea of mindfulness, doesn't it? It's a practice that comes from Buddhist tradition, but it's gaining a lot of attention in modern science for its benefits.
It really does. Mindfulness is about observing our experiences without judging them and accepting them without pushing back. When we bring this mindful awareness to aging, it changes how we see things. Instead of reacting with fear and asking, why is this happening to me? We start to approach aging with curiosity, asking, what can I learn from this? This is so important. The biological reality of getting older happens to everyone, but how we relate to that process is something we can choose. Do we resist the changes, or do we try to navigate them with wisdom and grace? It's up to us.
It is. The text introduces this really lovely Japanese concept called wabi-sabi, which is about finding beauty in imperfection. It's celebrating the cracks, the weathering, the signs of age and use, not seeing those as flaws to hide, but as proof of a life that's been fully lived. Think of an old wooden table with marks from generations of use. Every scratch and dent tells a story. Our bodies are kind of like that too, aren't they? With our wrinkles and scars, they tell our stories. They speak of resilience, of love, of everything we've experienced. Seeing aging through wabi-sabi turns it from a story of loss to a story of gain. It's a living legacy that's part of us.
What's so interesting about wabi-sabi is how it challenges our typical ideas of beauty, which are often very narrow and influenced by our culture. It encourages us to see beauty beyond what's perfect on the surface and to appreciate the deeper kind of beauty that comes from time experience and even what we might usually see as imperfections. If we apply this to our own aging process, it suggests that those lines on our faces, the stiffness in our joints, aren't things to be ashamed of or desperately try to erase. They're more like badges of honor, reminders of the incredible journey we've been on.
Yeah, I love that. The text then reminds us about the role of community and how traditionally elders were respected for their wisdom and knowledge. But it points out that in modern society, older adults can sometimes feel ignored or forgotten. It makes you think about all the wisdom we might be missing out on by not truly valuing and connecting with our seniors.
It raises a really important point about the values of our society, doesn't it? In many traditional cultures, the wisdom gathered over a lifetime was seen as a precious resource, something to be sought out and treasured. The text kind of makes us think about how much we might be losing as a society when we don't make space for the voices and experiences of our elders to be heard and respected.
So to wrap up this first part, the text offers a powerful new way of thinking about aging. It's not the enemy in our life story, but the canvas on which our experiences are painted. It's like the pauses in music that give shape and meaning to the melody. It's the culmination of everything we've been and everything we're becoming. And it ends with a question for you, the listener. Are you ready to actively rewrite your own story of aging?
I think that's a great question to consider. It's a challenge to take control of how we experience aging, to move away from passively accepting this idea of decline, and instead embrace a journey of growth and self-discovery that continues throughout our lives.
And now in part 2, we're diving into a core Buddhist teaching, the 5 aggregates, which are also known as the Panchakaskandha. The text describes these as the fundamental building blocks of what makes us human, and offers them as a framework for understanding and navigating aging with more clarity and purpose. So understanding these 5 building blocks, it's not just a theoretical thing, it actually empowers you to engage with every aspect of your aging experience in a mindful way, from how your body changes to how your perceptions shift.
Right. The 5 aggregates form sensation, perception, mental formations, and consciousness provide a really insightful and practical map for understanding ourselves and how we experience aging. The text uses a helpful analogy of a house with each aggregate representing a separate room within that house.
Okay, I like that analogy. Let's walk through those rooms. The first one is form, which basically refers to our physical body. Now, the text acknowledges that our bodies are going to show signs of wear and tear as we age, kind of like creaky floorboards or faded paint in our house analogy. But importantly, it emphasizes that we still have the ability to care for our bodies. We can do that with mindfulness and through practices like gentle movement, such as yoga or Tai Chi. It's about being kind to ourselves, becoming aware of our body's changing needs, and respecting its wisdom.
I think the emphasis on our active role here is really important. Even though our bodies naturally age, we're not just sitting back watching it happen. We can make choices through conscious awareness and intentional practices to really support our physical well-being as we get older.
Absolutely. The second room is sensation, and this is all about the raw sensory data of our lives. Things like pleasure, pain, warmth, cold, and so on. The text suggests that while the intensity of some sensations might change as we age, they can also become more meaningful. It's like trading the excitement of fireworks for the steady warmth of a fireplace. We start to appreciate the smaller things, the little joys more deeply, like the warmth of a cup of tea, a gentle touch, the sound of birds singing. The text even talks about mindful eating as a way to turn an ordinary activity into a more meaningful sensory experience.
That idea of savoring is so important. As we go through life, we often develop a deeper capacity for appreciating things, for noticing the small, beautiful details that we might have missed before. This shift from being focused on intense, fleeting sensations to appreciating the subtle and enduring ones can bring a real sense of contentment as we get older.
Yeah, I can see that. The third room is perception. This is how we interpret the world around us, how we make sense of all the sensory information coming in. The text points out that our perceptions naturally change as we age. What used to seem like huge challenges might become more manageable with experience and the benefit of hindsight. This ties in with the Buddhist idea of non-attachment, which is about letting go of rigid expectations and preconceived notions so that we can see reality more clearly in its fluid and always changing nature. So instead of mourning the loss of youthful energy, we can learn to see and appreciate the resilience and emotional wisdom we've gained over time.
That perspective that comes with age can be incredibly freeing. The text kind of suggests that by loosening our grip on how we think things should be, we open ourselves up to a richer and more accepting experience of how things actually are. This new perspective can be a powerful tool for dealing with the anxieties and frustrations that can come with the changes of aging.
Absolutely. The fourth room is mental formations, and this includes our thoughts, beliefs, ingrained habits, and emotional patterns. When we're young, we often have this strong desire to control everything. But the text gently reminds us that life rarely goes according to plan. This is where practices like meditation become really valuable. Meditation teaches us to observe our thoughts and emotions without getting carried away by them, kind of like watching clouds drift by in the sky. With practice, this mindful observation can help us weaken negative thought patterns and cultivate more positive and supportive ones. The text tells the story of May, who used meditation to work through and let go of some deep-seated bitterness. It's a great example of how this works. Think about those automatic thoughts that pop up sometimes, like, I'm too old for this, or things were better back in my day. These mental formations really shape how we experience aging, and mindfulness helps us become aware of them and potentially even change them.
Right, being able to observe our own thoughts and feelings with a sense of detachment is crucial for navigating the emotional ups and downs of aging. Meditation gives us a practical way to develop this non-reactive awareness. It empowers us to choose how we respond to our thoughts and feelings, instead of being controlled by habitual patterns that might not be serving us anymore.
That makes a lot of sense. Finally, we come to the fifth room, consciousness. This is often described as the awareness that illuminates all the other aggregates. In Buddhist philosophy, consciousness isn't limited to our individual selves. It's seen as a more expansive and interconnected field of awareness that connects us all. This understanding can be a powerful way to counteract the feeling of isolation that can sometimes come with aging. When we recognize that we're part of a larger web of life, it helps us to move beyond the limits of our individual ego and our fears.
This idea of interconnectedness is central to Buddhist thought. As we age and maybe experience more changes in our close relationships, this deeper understanding that we're all part of this vast and intricate web of existence can bring a lot of comfort, a sense of belonging, and a reminder that we're never truly alone.
That's beautiful. The text then gives us some practical ways to integrate these 5 aggregates into our everyday lives. It talks about loving kindness, meditation, or metta, where we intentionally cultivate feelings of goodwill and compassion towards ourselves and others by repeating phrases of kindness. Research suggests that this practice can have real benefits like reducing stress and improving overall well-being, which are so important as we age.
Loving kindness meditation is a really beautiful and accessible practice for opening our hearts and becoming more compassionate towards ourselves and others. As we get older, we might become more aware of our own vulnerabilities and the challenges faced by those around us. Metta helps us approach those realities with understanding and acceptance.
That's a great point. The text also emphasizes breath awareness meditation, using the simple act of focusing on our breath as an anchor to bring us into the present moment. It even suggests combining breath awareness with walking meditation as a way to cultivate calm and clarity in our daily lives.
Breath awareness is a foundational practice in mindfulness. It's something we always have access to, and we can use it any time to ground ourselves in the here and now. It's especially helpful when we find our minds getting caught up in worries about the future or regrets about the past.
Right, and it circles back to the importance of community mentioning initiatives like the Elder Wisdom Circle, which intentionally create connections between older and younger generations. It highlights the idea that sharing knowledge and experience benefits both the person sharing and the person receiving.
These intergenerational connections are so important for creating a more supportive and understanding society. They offer practical support and companionship, and they also remind us of the valuable contributions that each stage of life has to offer.
I agree. The text ends this part by reminding us that aging is a universal human experience, and that our lives, no matter what stage we're at, impact the lives of others. It asks you, the listener, what kind of legacy do you want to create? How can you use the unique gifts and wisdom that come with age to make a positive difference in the world?
It's an invitation to think beyond our own personal experience of aging and consider the larger impact we have on the world. It encourages us to build a legacy that's rooted in wisdom, compassion, and making meaningful contributions.
I like that. In our last part, we're going to explore a concept that might seem a little abstract at first, but the text presents it as a powerful key to renewal later in life: emptiness, or shunyata. It's important to understand, and the text clarifies this, that emptiness is not about nothingness or a void. It's more about a deep sense of openness, a fertile ground from which transformation and new possibilities can grow, especially as we navigate the changes of aging.
Right, that's a really important distinction. The concept of emptiness, shunyata, is often misunderstood. It's not about a nihilistic void, it's about the understanding that nothing has a fixed, independent existence. Everything in reality is interconnected and constantly changing. This understanding, as strange as it might sound, can be incredibly freeing, especially when we face the reality that everything changes, including ourselves, as we age.
The text addresses a common fear that can come up as we get older, the fear of losing our sense of identity. But it suggests that shunyata can actually help us find renewal in this area. By letting go of rigidly clinging to who we think we are, to our roles and expectations, we create space for something new to emerge.
Our identities are often so closely tied to external things like our careers, our roles in our families, our physical appearance, our past accomplishments. As these things naturally change with age, it's understandable to feel a sense of disorientation or loss. Shunyata encourages us to look beyond these temporary and changing aspects of self and connect with a deeper, more fluid and interconnected sense of being.
It's really important to remember, as the text emphasizes, that shunyata is not the same as nihilism, which is the belief that nothing has meaning or value. Instead, it highlights the interconnectedness of everything and the reality of constant change. By letting go of clinging to fixed ideas and expectations, we open ourselves up to a wider range of possibilities, which is really relevant to the transitions and changes we experience as we age.
Exactly. It's about recognizing the potential for growth and transformation that's always present within the open and boundless nature of reality. That potential becomes even clearer when we let go of our resistance to change.
Yeah, that makes sense. The story of Hiroshi, a retired engineer from Kyoto who discovered a passion for painting after embracing the principles of shunyata and beginner's mind, Shoshin, is a great example. It shows us how aging can be a vibrant second act full of unexpected opportunities.
Hiroshi's experience is such a good example of how letting go of a long-held identity, in his case being an engineer, can open up space for new passions and talents to emerge. The concept of beginner's mind, Hirshin, which is about approaching life with curiosity and openness as if we're seeing things for the first time, is a powerful tool for any stage of life. But it can be especially transformative later in life when we might think we've already learned everything we need to know.
Absolutely. The text also addresses the very real fear of becoming irrelevant in a society that often values youth above all else. It offers the Buddhist perspective that true and lasting fulfillment comes from cultivating inner peace and wisdom, not from seeking external validation. By letting go of the need to constantly prove ourselves or maintain a certain image, we free up a lot of energy that can then be used to nurture meaningful relationships, deepen our wisdom, and engage in acts of service to others.
The constant pursuit of external validation can be exhausting and unfulfilling no matter how old we are. The Buddhist perspective gently guides us back to the understanding that true happiness comes from within, from inner peace, self-acceptance, and developing wisdom. And these are qualities that can deepen and mature as we age.
So true. And for those who might be carrying the weight of past regrets or unresolved pain, the text introduces the practice of Tonglen, which is often translated as giving and taking. It's a powerful method for transforming suffering into compassion by visualizing breathing in the pain and suffering of others, or even our own difficult emotions, and breathing out relief, healing, and peace. It's a practice that can soften our hearts and help us cultivate forgiveness for ourselves and others.
Tonglen is a truly transformative practice that goes against our natural instinct to avoid pain and suffering. By intentionally embracing the difficulties of others and offering them relief through our visualization, we cultivate deep compassion and also begin to loosen the grip of our own suffering.
Yeah, that's powerful. The text then gives us some practical steps that you, our listener, can take to explore these ideas further. It suggests journaling regularly to reflect on what you might be holding on to that's no longer serving you, creating a gratitude altar. As a visual reminder of the abundance in your life, to shift your focus away from scarcity and actively seeking out opportunities to volunteer or mentor others, which can reinforce your sense of purpose and value in ways that go beyond personal gain.
These are all accessible and powerful practices that can help us live the principles of emptiness and letting go in our everyday lives. They offer concrete ways to become more self-aware, deepen our appreciation for the present moment, and strengthen our connection to the community around us.
It ends with a beautiful and powerful image of the lotus flower rising pure and radiant from muddy waters. It's a timeless symbol of our ability to be resilient and transform ourselves, suggesting that even amidst the challenges and difficulties of aging, we have the potential to turn adversity into beauty and wisdom. It reminds us that aging can be seen as a journey towards higher levels of awareness and fulfillment.
The lotus flower is a great metaphor for the transformative potential that's within each of us. Just as the lotus blossoms in even the dirtiest conditions, we too have the capacity to rise above life's challenges, including the aging process, and blossoms into our full potential.
I love that image. The text leaves us with a final thought-provoking question. What seeds of possibility might be lying dormant within you right now? How can you use the principles of emptiness, beginner's mind, and interconnectedness to actively rewrite your own story of aging and see it not as an ending, but as an ongoing evolution? It reminds us that the canvas of our lives is never truly finished. It's always unfolding.
It's an invitation to embrace the continuous journey of life, to recognize that even as we get older, there's always the potential for new growth, new learning, and new beginnings.
So just to quickly recap our deep dive today, we've explored aging through the lens of Buddhist philosophy, shifting away from the idea of decline and towards seeing aging as a process of transformation and growth. We've talked about accepting impermanence, learned about the 5 aggregates as a framework for understanding ourselves, and explored the liberating power of emptiness as a gateway to renewal.
We hope that you, our listener, have gained some valuable insights and practical tools that will help you approach your own aging process with more acceptance, curiosity, wisdom, and even joy.
And on that note, I want to leave you with one last thought, building on that image of the lotus flower. Take a moment to think about the muddy waters in your own life, those challenges, those difficulties, those unexpected turns. What if those very circumstances are actually the fertile ground from which future blooms of wisdom, strength, and profound growth might emerge? It's something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We encourage you to keep exploring these ideas in your own life.